Yesterday evening, my phone buzzed with frantic messages from my daughter, Lily. "Mom, we're locked out of the apartment, and the movers are here. I don't know what to do." Her panic made me feel a little satisfied. Not proud exactly, but a long overdue sense of relief. To understand why, you have to know what happened the week before, when my son-in-law Mark decided to humiliate me in front of everyone. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe this channel and hit the like button so this story can reach more people who love to listen my story. I'm 65 years old, widowed for nearly a decade, and for years, I've been the safety net for my daughter and her husband. Every rent payment, every emergency repair, every overpriced gadget, they came from my savings. I worked hard to give them the cushion they thought they deserved, even when it cost me sleepless nights and a gnawing feeling of emptiness. Last Thursday, while I was pouring tea for everyone, Mark said something I'll never forget. "Oh, she's just here to pay for our lives," he joked, smiling at his friends. At first, I thought I heard him wrong. The teapot shook a little in my hand, and some tea spilled over the edge of the cup onto the table. No one said anything. Lily gave a small, nervous laugh, looking from me to Mark, like she didn't know what to do. His friends laughed too, not realizing how much it hurt. I wanted to say something, to tell them how unfair that was, but the words just wouldn't come out. I felt frozen, standing there with the teapot, while everyone else went back to their conversation like nothing had happened. I quietly cleaned up the spilled tea, my hands shaking a bit. Inside, I felt small, like I didn't belong in my own home. I had worked so hard for this family, and in that moment, it felt like none of it mattered. That moment made everything clear. It was like the blindfold finally came off. To them, I wasn't family. I wasn't a mother. I was just a wallet with legs. For years, I'd been the one to fix every problem, to pay for everything they couldn't, or wouldn't, handle themselves. When Mark lost his job, I covered their rent for 6 months, plus their utilities when they fell behind. When Lily wanted a new laptop for work purposes, I didn't hesitate to spend $2,500, even though I was still paying off my own credit card debt. When their car broke down, I paid for the repairs, and when they decided to redecorate their apartment, I sent $7,000 so they could make it feel more like home. They never even invited me to see it. And the vacations, those still sting the most. They went to Europe 3 times, posting smiling photos online while I sat at home, quietly paying their airfare, hotels, and fancy dinners. I even helped with smaller things, cell phone bills, birthday gifts, groceries when money was tight. Every time, I told myself it was out of love, that helping them meant keeping our family close. But deep down, I think I knew they only called when they needed something. That sacrificing my comfort was part of the duty of a parent. That was what I had always believed. I told myself that good mothers gave everything, even the pieces of themselves that hurt to lose. But that evening, as I sat alone at my kitchen table, Mark's words kept echoing in my head, looping like a cruel refrain. "You've always been fine, Mom. You don't need much." And for the first time, I heard what he truly meant. A cold, sharp clarity settled over me like winter air creeping through an open window. I was not loved for who I was. I was loved only for what I could give. I began to replay the years, each one lined with exhaustion and quiet sacrifice. I thought about the time Lily wanted to attend that expensive summer program in Boston. I'd smiled and said, "Of course, sweetheart," even though my checking account was gasping. That month, I lived on instant noodles and skipped my own medication just so her tuition would clear. When the acceptance letter came, she squealed and hugged me, but I remember how quickly she let go when her boyfriend texted. Then there were the nights I spent on the phone with landlords, negotiating, begging, smoothing things over. "Please, just give me one more week," I'd say, pretending not to hear the condescension in their voices. I'd juggle 3 bills at once, telling myself that if I stayed quiet and humble, things would stay afloat. The small humiliations piled up like dust I never noticed until it choked me. The way Mark would smirk when I handed him my credit card, his fingers snatching it before I'd even finished speaking. "You're the best, Mom," he'd say without meeting my eyes. Or Lily, rolling hers when I hesitated before another transfer. "It's just money, Mom. Don't be dramatic." Even my joy became something they consumed. I remember the Paris trip last year. the one I paid for entirely. Flights, hotel, meals, even their champagne on the Seine. I thought maybe this time they'd want me there, that we could share something beautiful together. But when I mentioned coming along, Lily gave me that practiced smile. "It's a couple's trip, Mom," she said, voice tight with guilt. I nodded as if that made sense, as if a mother's longing could be folded away neatly like a receipt. I stayed home and watched their photos appear online, kissing under the Eiffel Tower, holding hands by the river, each post a reminder that I had funded my own exclusion. I began to see how I had become a ghost in my own life, present in body, absent in worth. My needs, my desires, even my pain, none of it seemed real to them. Every act of kindness I offered was mistaken for obligation. Every dollar I gave only tightened the leash around my own throat. But the breaking point came last month. Mark came over, fidgeting, his voice soft with something that almost sounded like guilt. "Mom," he said, "I need a new car. This one isn't safe for the baby we're planning." The baby. He used the word like a key, knowing it would unlock my last defenses. $18,000. My savings. My retirement. Everything I had quietly built for the years I hoped to rest. Gone. That night, I didn't cry. For the first time, I couldn't. Instead, I sat with my laptop glowing in the dark and planned. I reviewed every account, every recurring payment, every quiet pipeline they had into my life. I changed passwords, closed credit cards, cancelled automatic transfers. I even set up alerts so I'd know the moment anyone tried to use my name again. With every click, something inside me shifted. By morning, I felt a strange stillness, a peace I hadn't felt in decades. For once, I was not bracing for the next demand. For once, my life belonged to me. At noon, my phone rang. Lily's voice was frantic, breathless. "Mom, we're locked out of the apartment. The movers won't take our payment. Your card isn't working." "Ah," I said, sipping my coffee slowly. "Funny you mention that." "What do you mean?" "We need you, please, Mom." "I mean," I said gently, "that I've decided my money is mine again. The cards are closed, the transfers cancelled, and the safety net is gone. You'll have to handle your own bills now." There was silence, thick and stunned. Then Mark's voice, shaky, almost boyish. "But what about the movers?" I smiled, though tears pricked my eyes, not of sadness but release. "I'm sure you'll figure it out. You're grown-ups now," I said softly, and hung up. I sat back in my chair, coffee warm in my hands, and for the first time in years, the quiet didn't feel lonely. It felt sacred. I could almost hear them scrambling, learning in real time what responsibility felt like. And I, after a lifetime of giving until I disappeared, finally felt visible again. My money was mine. My peace was mine. And for the first time in decades, so was my life. 2 days passed before I heard anything. Peace stretched across my little house like sunlight on a clean floor. Then, on the third morning, the storm returned. The phone rang. It was Lily again, her voice raw, thin. "Mom, they've cut the electricity. Mark said he'd handle it, but the payment bounced. The landlord's furious." I took a slow breath, staring at the steam curling up from my mug. "I'm sorry, darling. You'll need to talk to the utility company." "You don't understand," she snapped, the edge of fear slicing through her tone. "We're 2 months behind. He can't find another job, his business partner pulled out." I cut in gently. "Then maybe it's time he stopped waiting for things to happen and started making them happen." There was a beat of silence. Then she hung up. That afternoon I went grocery shopping. At the checkout I ran into Mrs. Collins, who lives in their building. "Oh," she said, shaking her head. "Lily looked so upset yesterday." "Poor thing," said the movers dumped half their boxes in the hallway because they couldn't pay the rest of the fee. I smiled politely, offered no explanation. Inside, I felt something complicated, a mix of sadness and vindication. They were feeling, finally, what I had felt for years, the weight of decisions made in ignorance of consequence. When I returned home, another text waited. "Lily, they're threatening to tow the car. Can you please just loan us $500? I'll pay you back next Friday. Promise." I stared at the words until they blurred, then typed a reply, "Sweetheart, I believe you'll find a way. You always do when you have to." I hit send and set the phone face down. By the end of the week, their world was shrinking. Mark had picked up odd delivery shifts. Lily took temporary work at a cafe, the same kind of job she'd once laughed about when friends mentioned it. She texted me late one night, "My feet hurt so much I can barely stand. How did you do this for years, Mom?" I wanted to tell her, because I had you to feed. But I didn't. Some lessons needed space to settle. Instead, I wrote back, "You'll get stronger. Work has a way of showing us what we're made of." No answer came. Weeks passed. The autumn leaves turned copper, then gray. My days filled quietly, morning walks, an art class with Maria, evenings spent painting in the gentle light of the kitchen. Every so often, the phone would buzz, a half-hearted plea, a clipped update. I never ignored them completely, I simply refused to rescue. Then, one Sunday, Lily showed up at my door unannounced. Her clothes were clean but worn, her hair tied back in a loose ponytail. There were lines around her eyes that hadn't been there before. "Mom," she said softly, "can I come in?" I stepped aside. She hovered by the kitchen table, looking around as if the room belonged to another lifetime. "It smells the same," she murmured. "Like coffee and soap." I poured her a cup. She wrapped her hands around it, holding it as though to absorb warmth. "Mark's moved in with a friend for a while," she said after a long silence. "He's trying to get back on his feet. We're behind on everything." I said nothing. Her eyes filled. "I used to think you just liked paying for things. I didn't realize how much it cost you, not just money. Time. Sleep. Pride." She looked up, tears gathering like glass beads. "I'm sorry, Mom." The words landed softly, but they shook something loose in me. I reached across the table and covered her hand. "Lily, love isn't money. It's presence, effort, gratitude. Those are things you can give without taking from someone else." She nodded, biting her lip. "I know that now." For a moment we sat in the quiet hum of the refrigerator, mother and daughter again, stripped of the noise of debt and pride. Then she whispered, "It's strange, but, since you stopped helping, I've learned more about myself in a month than in the last 10 years. I'm scared all the time, but it's the kind of scared that makes you move." I smiled. That's what living feels like. Over the next few months, Lily called not to ask for money, but to tell me stories how she learned to budget. How she started baking to save on groceries and sold cupcakes to co-workers. How she fixed the leak in the sink by watching a video online. Every story was a thread sewing us back together. One day she said, "Mom, I applied for a promotion at the cafe. It's not much, but it's honest. Mark and I are talking again slowly. He's working nights." I could hear pride in her voice, real pride, not the borrowed kind that came from someone else's wallet. "You sound stronger," I told her. "I think I am," she said. Then, after a pause, "I used to think you were harsh. Now I think you were brave." Winter settled in. I spent the holidays quietly, just a few neighbors, some carols, a pot roast. Then, on Christmas Eve, a knock came at the door. Lily stood there holding a small wrapped box. Snow dusted her hair. "It's nothing big," she said quickly. "Just something I made." Inside was a hand-painted mug, blue with a small gold heart at the bottom. Across the side in her careful handwriting were the words, "Thank you for teaching me how to stand." My throat tightened. She smiled shyly. "I thought about all the times you made tea for us. It seemed right that you'd finally have one of your own." I hugged her then, really hugged her, and for a long moment we just stood there in the doorway, the world outside cold and the air between us warm again. Now, months later, life has found its rhythm. Lily visits on Sundays. We cook together, talk about work, sometimes sit quietly watching the birds outside. She insists on bringing groceries, even when I tell her not to. Mark's working steady hours now, and though I don't see him much, he always sends his greetings. I can tell he's different, tempered by humility. As for me, I've learned that love doesn't mean endless giving. Sometimes love is the strength to stop, to let others stumble until they learn how to walk. When I sip from the blue mug each morning, the little gold heart glints at the bottom, reminding me of everything that had to break so we could rebuild something honest. And in the quiet that follows, I know, saying no was the most loving thing I ever did. Sometimes love isn't about giving endlessly, it's about letting go, so those you love can finally learn to stand on their own. And when they do, that's when you truly see the beauty of strength, forgiveness, and family. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories that remind us of the quiet power of love, respect, and resilience.